the church down the street, which is kind of like a Catholic church in the CRC mold. It's very intimate and warm. I've been there for a couple of services. I spoke there. Progressive in terms of its sort of commitment to social justice, and just it's Hamish, to use a Yiddish word. And so for years we had a joint Hanukkah Advent service. I know that Paul has been there for that at CRC, and we kind of melded Hanukkah teachings and Advent teachings, and we lit the Hanukkah menorah and the Advent candles, and it was like a lovely hybrid service. And so we stopped even before the pandemic, but it was really just one of those really kind of wonderful interfaith sort of observances. Go ahead, Mary. You wanted to say something.
Maggie always tells me that she tells people that St. Cronan's is the Roman Catholic CRC.
Fair enough. So,
and I think that's a great compliment.
Amen. So I'll tell you what, you guys, we're on. We're streaming. Thank you to everybody for your patience. I'm here. I don't know. I only see myself, I think. But I'm here with about, 4 or 5 wonderful people who came on Zoom. And we're here. We decided, that we need to do more this year than just a first night, first light, and a Friday night, Hanukkah lighting along with Shabbat services, which is usually kind of pretty much the extent of Hanukkah at CRC, because Hanukkah is mostly a home observance holy day. But obviously, because of the extenuating circumstances and because of, as Dory said, the fact that so many people are just feeling isolated and unable to, have people over and go to other people's homes because we're trying to keep each other safe. We thought we would just do something online every night of Hanukkah, and of course that something would always include the lighting of Hanukkiot. And so here we are on the 5th night of Hanukkah, and like I said, I've got some people here with me on Zoom. I can see their punums, their faces. I'm not sure if the people streaming just see just me or the group here, but we're here and you're out there, and I just got a few things I want to kind of do and say and sing, and then we'll light candles together for this 5th night. So I had said that I wanted to talk a little bit about miracles, and obviously the word miracle is one of the words that's most associated with Hanukkah. And I grew up, as I've told a lot of people over the years, in a very sort of small but interesting movement of Judaism called humanistic Judaism. And that's kind of another conversation, what is humanistic Judaism? But I'll just have to say that it had a big influence on me. You could probably, even if you don't know what humanistic Judaism specifically means, you probably could put the two words together and figure out sort of the orientation of humanistic Judaism. And I still consider myself a humanist, but I don't consider myself a part of humanistic Judaism anymore. However, I'm not a born-again kind of person, meaning that I don't believe that when you, as you add to your identity, your other identities get stripped away. And so I know that, there's people on this call that are on the conversion path, or people who have become Jews by choice. And I always tell people, converting to Judaism shouldn't mean that everything you were before you became Jewish is gone, right? Because you're a whole package of all of your experiences and all of your values and all of the things that make you who you are. And now Judaism, once you convert, is part of that. So the same with me. I was born Jewish, but I don't have a lot of conversion or born again sort of experiences. For me, it's all about adding on to who I was and who I'm becoming. So humanistic Judaism, I very much value, even though I don't identify with that movement anymore. And one of the things that really will always be part of me from being a humanistic Jew is integrity. And, the part of the deal about humanistic Judaism is that nobody ever said God in humanistic Judaism. The word was sort of verboten, to use a German word. It was Judaism without theism, right? And so the buzzword was integrity, which meant that, you should say things that you mean, right? Always. You should always try to be as literal as possible with your words. Now, there's a problem with that, which is, what about poetry? What about metaphors? What about interpretation? And that's true. And yet I still I do think it's important to speak with integrity as much as possible. And so I want to make sure I use the word miracle a lot during Hanukkah and other times too. But I want to make sure, because I have this little moment here with all of you, that everyone that's listening understands when I say miracle, I'm talking about miracles that occur within the natural world, right? I'm not someone who really invests a lot about supernatural miracles, right? I could spend some time talking about what supernatural miracles what might be, but then that kind of gets me off course of saying that supernatural miracles aren't part of my belief system. But I do believe there are miracles all the time in the natural world. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel of blessed memory, he had this really amazing thing that he said. He said that the notion that there are facts, that there is science, that there are discoveries, should never negate the wonder that there are facts and discoveries in the first place. In other words, the more we learn, the more facts that we have, the more we discover, right? The more we should be filled with wonder and awe at the universe. The more those things seem miraculous. It doesn't take away from their miraculousness. It enhances their miraculousness. There's a prayer that we say in the morning. They're called the Berchot HaShachar, the morning blessings. And I love the Reform prayer book, the Gates of Prayer. Call those list of blessings Nisim B'chol Yom, everyday miracles. And that word Nisim, that means miracles. That's a word that's all over Hanukkah, right? For miracles. But they call them everyday miracles. And what are the miracles of the morning blessings? Opening your eyes in the morning, right? Standing up when you're awake and standing up from your bed and taking your first steps, right? Those are things that can be explained by science and anatomy and all, and we figured out why we open our eyes and why we walk, why we can put one foot in front of the other. But that doesn't mean they're not miracles. And I guess that's the kind of miracle that resonates with me during Hanukkah. I'll tell one quick Hanukkah story. I've told a bunch of Hanukkah stories over the years, but I don't think I've ever told this one. I lived in Israel, Amy and I, when I was a rabbinical student for a year in 1995, the summer of 95 through the summer of 96. I lived in Jerusalem, and it was for my first year of study to become a rabbi. And one of the great things about living in Israel for a year as a rabbinical student is you experience every holiday in Israel. Not that holidays aren't special outside of Israel, they are. But I have always, at every holiday, I have a sense of what it's like in Israel. And here's something about, well, actually, this isn't even about Israel. During Hanukkah, my mom and my stepfather came to visit Amy and I because we were spending the year in Israel. And we spent most of Hanukkah in Jordan, in the country of Jordan. And it was just months, literally months after Jordan and Israel signed a peace treaty allowing people to travel from Israel to Jordan. And, Jordan is incredible. We went to Amman and we went to Petra. If you ever have a chance to see Petra, it's breathtaking, from from the Indiana Jones movies, right? But so we went to Jordan, and it was kind of like one of those tours, and it was Hanukkah. And the very first night we were at a hotel. I believe it was Amman, but it might have been one of an outline, a smaller city. But I think it was Amman. And lo and behold, there were Hanukkah. There were people lighting Hanukkah menorahs in the dining hall in the restaurant. Israelis who were touring Jordan like we were, Americans touring Jordan. And there was a moment where all these people, including us, were able to sit in Amman, Jordan, and light Hanukkah candles in peace. And people from the hotel came over and asked us what we were doing, or we had conversations and we exchanged pleasantries and shalom and salam, and that was a miracle. Now, it wasn't a supernatural miracle. It took a lot of hard work, and it took people who cared about peace to do the difficult negotiations to make that happen. But it was a miracle that we were with a bunch of Israelis in Jordan, a country that decades earlier had gone to war against Israel. And there we were lighting the lights of hope and the lights of peace and the lights of Hanukkah in Jordan. So I want to bring it back to Hanukkah itself, because the Hanukkah miracle isn't a supernatural miracle. I'm not talking about the story of the oil, which is a great story, but I got to tell you, it's a story, right? So, but what's the real miracle of Hanukkah? The real miracle of Hanukkah is, against all odds, this small group of Judeans with very little resources, and certainly outmatched and outgunned and outmaneuvered, and they were against the Hellenistic Empire. And the Hellenistic Empire was ruling over lots of nations, not just Judea, putting their thumb and oppressing lots of people and not letting them live their chosen, their birthright lifestyle, just like or way of life. Lifestyle is an anachronistic term. It doesn't apply to those times. But the Jews of Judea, little by little, even those who loved Hellenism or who adopted Hellenism as into their Jewish way of life, and there were lots of Jews who were enamored of Hellenism. But as the oppression got worse and worse and worse, more and more and more Jews, even moderate Jews, even Jews who were somewhat Hellenized, joined the resistance. And they won back their independence, and they won back their religious freedom, and they were able to be Jewish again in the only way they knew how, in the way of their ancestors, and the way that they wanted to walk in the world. And that's a miracle. That's the real miracle of Hanukkah. And it was explainable, because it was about their spirit, and it was about it was about what they had inside of them, that compelled them against the odds to win, and then to be able to rededicate their way of life and their temple. And that's why, one of the reasons we have that religious freedom and we have that independence, and we're able to put our Hanukkah menorahs in the window and tell our neighbors that there are Jews in this household who celebrate Hanukkah, and we want to bring our light to the world that we hope is filled with everybody's light, to make it a better place. So that's my little miracle teaching. I promised a Hashkivenu, so I want to do that. I'm looking out my window right now, and it's nighttime, and it's a perfect time to sing a Hashkivenu before we light candles. As Lori said, this has been a wonderful day of miracles in the news. Not supernatural miracles, but miracles that are explainable. The miracle of this vaccine that we hope is the beginning of the end of the suffering of from this virus, and the beginning of us being able to get back into lives, our normal lives, and be able to connect with each other, and do the things that we've had to delay and cancel because of the virus, but mostly to save lives and mostly to alleviate suffering. And so that's a miracle. And our democracy in action with the Electoral College, that's a miracle. I feel like I'm Tevye. That's a miracle too, or Muttal. So there are miracles even under our, in this day, in this very day. And I'm sure of countless small miracles that you witnessed as you went about your day. So I'm going to sing Hashkivenu, and I'm going to, in place of the usual Hashkivenu rap, I'm going to read something about candle lighting, and it was written by one of my teachers and someone, one of our teachers, and I want to mention specifically Karen Flotty's teachers because she's right here on the Zoom screen. But Rabbi Arthur Waskow many years ago wrote a really wonderful kavanah for the lighting of candles that I read last night to my family on Zoom, because we had a Hanukkah gathering of grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins. So this is the words from Arthur Waskow, and then we'll sing a little Hashkivenu, and then we'll light our candles. Oh, I got to turn on my original sound. When the moon turns dark and the sun turns dark, we light a growing blaze of candles, Hanukkah. When the world turns dark because of a great government is threatening our freedom, our autonomy, our community, or a great corporation is threatening our jobs or poisoning our earth and air and water, or a great war is threatening our lives and shattering our hopes, we light a growing blaze of candles, Hanukkah. When our lives turn dark because we have lost someone beloved, or lost a loving relationship, or lost our sense of purpose in the world, when we have no hope of changing, we light a growing blaze of candles, Hanukkah. When our sense of hope and change darkens, we think ourselves helpless. But then as we light the candles, we remember the Maccabees, who faced a power even greater than the power that we confront. We light a growing blaze of candles, Hanukkah. So on each of these 8 nights, as we light the candles, we say aloud our intention, our kavanah, our commitment that we are making to ourselves and each other to create light in the midst of darkness, hope in the midst of depression, love in the midst of despair. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Allow us to lie and rise in peace. Shalom. Allow us to lie and rise in peace. Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. It's a miracle. It's a miracle we can sing this part of the song. It's really, truly a miracle. But we can, I believe we can. Sing, everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gotta be alright. Everything's gonna 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 be alright. Ufros aleinu sukkot, sukkot shlomecha. Ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha, and cover over us tonight with a sukkot shalom, a shelter of peace for you, for those you love. A shelter of peace, a shelter of love, a shelter of light over all creation, over everyone and everything that dwells on earth, over the vulnerable, over the sick, over the mourning, over those who are still oppressed, over all of us. Amen. Shalom. Miracles. So, just before we light, I wanted to do this, and I'm kind of glad we have an intimate gathering on Zoom, because this is probably the longest candle lighting some people have ever experienced. Sorry about that, but the word Hanukkah means dedication. In the case of the Hanukkah story, rededication, because of the rededication of the temple, and in a bigger sense, the rededication of the Judeans and the Jews of Judea, their independence and their religious freedom, their national identity, which for them was tied up with their religious identity, right? So dedication. So I thought I'd go around the Zoom room here. We just got a few people, and you don't have to, but if you'd like, let us know, and this, letting each other know, letting me know, and letting anyone who is streaming or who watches this later as a video, let us know who or what, right? Could be either, you're dedicating this night of Hanukkah to, the fifth night that we're about to light the candles. So how about if we start with Dory? Dory, who or what are you? Sorry.
I don't have anything.
Okay, we'll come back to you then. You think about it. How about Karen Flotty? Who or what are you dedicating this night of Hanukkah to?
I think I was interviewed today about the Mitzvah Farm. So I think I want to dedicate this to everybody who made the miracle happen during this pandemic of working at the farm. There were 10 regulars who grew all that food for Trinity Food Ministry. So to all of those folks that showed up and weeded and harvested and all of that.
I think that's awesome. How about Mary Hoffman? Who or what do you dedicate this fifth night of Hanukkah to?
I dedicate this fifth night of Hanukkah and every night of Hanukkah and every night of our Advent season in the Christian tradition to the miracle workers, to the people who bring or strive to bring light into the world. And to me, the miracle of Hanukkah and the Hanukkah story, even if it's just a story, is that they had the courage and the faith to light the lamp in the first place.
Amen. Thank you very much. That's a great, I think Rabbi Daniel wrote about that on social media about, that's a great Rabbi Susan teaching that. Thank you for bringing it to this moment. How about let's go to Lori and then Zach. What or who do you dedicate the fifth night of Hanukkah to?
So I said earlier, I'm a nurse practitioner. I have a patient who passed away a couple of months ago of COVID, and this patient didn't have a lot of family. And so I was thinking about them today when I watched the video of the very first nurse to receive this vaccine. And I was just thinking about all the people that will hopefully be saved that won't end up passing away like this patient of mine did. And I just don't want his memory forgotten because I know that he didn't have family. So I think about him often, and he's certainly in the forefront of my mind today as we, think about Hanukkah. So I'd like to just, for me, offer this for him.
Thank you. Do you happen to know his name?
I do know his name, but I don't know if I can say it because of HIPAA. So I just, I wish I could, but I don't think I can.
May his memory be a blessing. And what about you, Zach? Do you have a dedication?
I would have to say my dad, because we are coming up on 5 years since he passed just next month. And so, this time of year, you think about family and stuff anyway. So he's always on my mind. He's been on my mind every day since he passed. So more so now, I think. So to my dad.
Thanks, Zach. How about Liz and Paul?
I was thinking about this while everybody was talking, and of course, there are so many miracle workers out there. But being working in the kind of business that I do, I'm seeing more and more outside nurses, out-of-town nurses coming to St. Louis to help out at all the hospitals. And also all the people working in the food lines in the bad weather now, packing up people's cars and with food. It's such a blessing that there are so many people out there working. But the nurses are in the forefront. My niece is a nurse at St. Luke's, she's a respiratory therapist. And my stepdaughter's future father-in-law just passed away last week because of COVID-19 and other complications. So I just always want to dedicate it to these hardworking frontliners. It's amazing.
Thank you, Paul. Hey, Liz, how about you?
Well, he kind of stole part of mine. I've been thinking about Gina's future father-in-law who passed away a week ago this past Friday from COVID. And his wife's been on my mind, and, the whole family. And it's just, what's the word? I'm thankful that thus far our niece, who is the respiratory therapist and has 2 small children and a husband, has been able to perform her duties and go home every night and strip in the garage and make a run for the shower, and has not been affected, so that she's able to continue to do what she does as a respiratory therapist.
Thanks, Liz. I saw Lori shaking her head. I got you, Dory. You're next, Dory. Who or what do you dedicate this night of Hanukkah to?
I dedicate this night of Hanukkah to hope, and just that there is hope. And again, talking about this vaccine, and Rabbi Randy, what you said earlier, it is a miracle because, it's not a supernatural miracle, but how miraculous that at a time when we're having this level of global pandemic, that our science is such that they were able to bring a vaccine so quickly, something in the past that would have taken years, and that it is bringing hope to so many people.
Perfect. That's a perfect note to light candles on. So I'm going to get up from my chair here. And if you guys have your Hanukkahot, your Hanukkah menorahs, you can light with me. And everybody who's streaming, same thing. I'm going to sing the blessings. We talked about that story of the classic Hanukkah story. There's another explanation for 8 nights, which is that when the Judeans came back into their temple and they saw everything was in shambles, and they saw a 8-pronged spear of war stuck into the ground, that one of the Greek soldiers had left behind. And they took that spear and they turned it around, and that's what they made the menorah out of, the new menorah. And then so this 8-pronged spear of war got turned around into an instrument of peace and hope and light. So that's another explanation for the 8 days. So here we go, guys. Gonna light the shamus. Of course, I have the holy ground menorah that I'm so proud to have that at my house. But I hope next year we'll be able to light it at the synagogue. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavotenu ve'imotenu bayamim ahem bazman hazeh. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone, Ruach, shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone, shall we all live in peace. So just take a look around. I hope that, I know you can see my menorah, which isn't mine, it's CRC's, it belongs to our neighborhood, but I see Paul and Liz's Hanukkah, and Lori and Zach's, and I see Karen's, and so the light keeps multiplying, more and more light. Fill your home, fill your neighborhoods, fill the world with your unique light and the beautiful light of Judaism. And happy 5th night of Hanukkah, everybody. Have a good night and a good day tomorrow. And the best thing about tonight is we wake up and it's still Hanukkah for a few more days. Actually, I want to tell you really quickly. You guys probably know this on the Zoom, but just to make sure, tomorrow night looks like a really interesting program. Also at 6 o'clock candle lighting, and then 6:15 is A Light in the Darkness, Tales of Queer Jewish Resilience. What a great Hanukkah program that's going to be. And then Wednesday night is dreidel making at 5, song session at 5:30. This is obviously for families, but for kids at heart as well. 6 o'clock candle lighting, and 6:15 dreidel playing, if you want to do Zoom dreidel playing. And then finally, the last night of Hanukkah, 6 o'clock candle lighting, and 6:15 trivia for households with children ages pre-K through 6th grade. So every single night, something that you can, if you want to tune in and be part of Hanukkah with a community, we're more than glad and delighted, to use a good Hanukkah word, to provide. So thank you guys. Great to see your faces. Great to see your light. And Chag Urim Sameach, everybody. Happy Festival of Lights. Laila Tov. Happy Hanukkah.